Good. Din chola b'Shabbos, the laws of a sick person on Shabbos, and there are ubo nun hey 55 chapters. Mishif michush balmo, a person who has a pain on Shabbos, she'en lo chashash sakana, there's no danger to his life at all, no danger to a limb at all. V'hu mitchazek b'holech kaburi, and he doesn't even have to go to bed, doesn't make him bedridden, it doesn't incapacitate him. Also, you cannot do anything for healing on Shabbat. I feel like not even by a non-Jew. So a person has a mild headache, aches and pains in his muscles, but he can still go to shul and he can still eat and he can do this, but it's just very uncomfortable. You can't take an aspirin. You can't bring a non-Jew to give him a shot or something. Unless it's in the way that we are going to explain. Afilu davar, even in a thing, she'ein bo mishum srach malacha, but there's no connection whatsoever to one of the 39 works of Shabbos. Afilu divrei sofrim, even from the rabbis. Ein lo shum isur kalal, even if there's nothing wrong with it at all, to massage the person or, right? Nevertheless, because you're doing something for healing, and you can see clearly that you're doing it for healing a person, it's forbidden. Why? Mishum gezerah, because of a decree, Shema yishchok sama money. Maybe you will grind up herbs for healing. Kishiyeh mutar, when it's possible, lasuk for Shabbat, if they permit you to across the board do whatever you want to for healing someone on Shabbat, then you will be chayav because of grinding. So one of the 39 malachas on Shabbos is that you're not allowed to grind things up. You're not allowed to grind things up. How do they know what the 39 malachas of Shabbos are? 39 general categories. Those were 39 general categories of work that were done in order to build the tabernacle. And in the Torah, it says that you should build a tabernacle and that you should not build it on Shabbat. So from that, they learned that anything which would come to further the progress of building the tabernacle, you can't do. You're not allowed to do it. And it was received from Moshe on Mount Sinai that there are 39 categories. Those are called avot malachos. In any case, one of those is grinding up. There's another commandment in the Torah that says that the rabbis must make commandments. And the rabbis must make fences around the commandments that already exist. So especially they did this on Shabbat, because Shabbat is very easy to transgress Shabbat, because basically there aren't really many positive commandments on Shabbat at all. You just have to honor the Shabbat, make kiddush in the nighttime, eat a nice meal, dress up nice, etc. But there was a lot of negative commandments on Shabbat. A lot of negative commandments on Shabbat. And it's very easy for a person, let's say he wants to cook himself up a nice meal on Shabbat. He wants to enjoy the Shabbat, to cook up a nice steak or something. That's his pleasure. You can't do it. It's forbidden. So because you can't do it, so the rabbis made certain laws that even Erev Shabbat, there's sometimes when you can't cook. The thing is not cooked enough. Also, the rabbis invented the whole idea of muktzah. But you have to remember, it's not that the rabbis invented it on their own. They are enjoined. This is the power of the Torah. The Torah tells them that they must make these laws. So one of the laws regarding to healing is that you have to be careful not to do things which are not necessary on Shabbat. Some of the things, even because they look like healing. So what if it looks like healing? So it might bring a person to grind up spices to make medicine. And because of that, maybe it might. Now, again, this is not a psychological thing. These people just sat around and they decided, how to make it hard on the Jewish people. These were very holy people. It says the people who made these decrees had the power to raise the dead. So these were tremendously high spiritual people. So these commandments of the rabbis essentially are commandments of the Torah. God gave them the power to do it. So one of the things is you're not allowed to do anything on Shabbat that looks like you are healing a person unless that person needs to be healed. And it's not going to be so simple. For instance, the person that he's dying, you can do almost anything. But a person who's just going to, let's say, lose a limb, his toe is broken. Technically, you're not allowed. You cannot take him to the hospital. Can't take him to the hospital. You can get a non-Jew to take him to the hospital. You cannot take him to the hospital. You can't do anything from the Torah. He has a toll like that. If it's not any danger to his life, but it really, really hurts him, right? You can't give him a shot or anything. You're drawing blood. Okay. In any case, let's look at the details. We have 54 more laws to go. So let's take it gradually. Shin Chavches, the law of a sick person on Shabbos. A person that is Choli Shel Sakana. So we went to the most non-threatening situation to the most yes-threatening situation. A person that is in danger of losing his life. He's in danger of losing his life. A person that has some sort of a disease or a wound that's endangering his life. It's a mitzvah to defile the Shabbos for this person. Mitzvah, take him in your car, drive. And the one who does it first is the best. A person is dying. The first person that you want to call it, defiles the Shabbos, does something on Shabbos that's forbidden to do in order to save a life, this is praiseworthy. And a person who asks a rabbi, is it okay if the only way I can save this person's life is if I check the chicken for him, or I take him in my car on Shabbat. Is it permissible? It says if you ask, it's like you're murdering him. Vanishal, and the rabbi that you're asking, Harizem Maguna, this is disgusting. Why is it disgusting? What did the rabbi do wrong? That the rabbi should have taught everyone Shamuter, that if there's in danger of life, it is permissible to uproot all of the laws of Shabbat. Okay, we'll learn if it has to be laws that are relevant to saving this person, even in a very far away, or maybe just all the laws of Shabbat. We'll see. Afilu safek nefashos, even if there's a doubt. Dochet Shabbat, it pushes away the Shabbat. Even if there's a doubt if this person is going to live or die, nevertheless, it is a mitzvah to uproot the Shabbat, disregard it totally. Like it says, Asher Yaseh Adam v'chai b'hem, because the commandments, it says a person should do them and live in them. Ma ta'am lo live in them. You should say, just do the commandments. We didn't do the commandments and live in them. Kolomar, you have to see to it that a person should live, certainly when he does the commandments, and not that a person should die because of the commandments, even to come to suffer a doubt of death. Okay, we all know that there are certain times when a person has to give his life, is supposed to give his life anyway, for uh, for um, for the Torah. So you have to know when those times are. But one of those times are not if you're sick. Okay, but the reason I'm saying that is because there is a very definite urge for a person to say, listen, where does sickness come from? It comes from God. Who made me sick? God. Not an accident. If God made me sick, it is obviously a big test. Some people will say this is a big test to see if I really believe in him. And if God heals me, then okay. If not, then that's the way God wanted. So that is actually a very valid way of thinking. If it wasn't that the Torah says the opposite. The Torah says exactly the opposite. Right? It's also a valid way of thinking that if I want to keep the holy Shabbat, then I should be able to cook up a steak on Shabbat. What's the problem? I'm doing it for the sake of the Lord. Logical way to think, but it's wrong. The Torah says you're not allowed to do it. The Torah says there are times when you're not supposed to use your logic. That's what the Torah says. Putting on tefillin, that's logical. Shabbat comes in at a certain time, right? Not 1 minute later. And a person wants to smoke a Shabbat 5 minutes before, smoke a cigarette before Shabbat comes in. I mean, I don't know if smoking cigarettes is okay, but I know 100% no problem. 5 minutes after Shabbat, God forbid, it's punishable by death. Does that make any sense? Right? Making sense? If you want to, when the sun sets on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, you can do whatever you want. Sun sets, what's about Friday night, the sun sets, that's it. Does it make any sense? Because we're living in God's world. It's not our world, and God is creating it, and we're not creating it. So, therefore, it says that you should live through doing the Torah. And this is one of the cases where we apply this. Shabbat is one of the most important commandments in the Torah. And nevertheless, we push it away if life is in danger. If it's necessary to push it away, of course. Mikol makom, nevertheless, afilu bavada, even if a person is certainly sick, in machalim alabarafua, only in a healing shehi yadua, that it's known to everyone. O al pi mumcha, or according to an expert. Kishehi rafua yadua, when it is a known healing. Av she'in yadua im ze yitrapeh, even if you don't know it will heal him or not. Mechalin b'safek. So if a person is laying there dying, right? He's very, very sick, and he says, turn on the ball game. I want to see the World Series, right? You said it's going to endanger his life if he doesn't see the World Series. If it will endanger his life if he doesn't see it, say he has to say, okay, it could be permissible. But probably not. I mean, most people, rare is the person who will die if he doesn't see the World Series, right? So generally speaking, you can't do anything. I mean, after all, what's the big deal turning on the World Series? You're just pushing a little button and the television comes on, right? It says, no, you're not allowed to do it. It has to be something that is connected and known that it can cure this disease. If it really is a case that someone was dying and he wanted to see the World Series and that will keep him alive until the game ends, right? Then it could be that you could do it. This is what you have to ask a rabbi. And you can't just do anything. You can't do anything you want for the person. So it says you're allowed to disregard the Shabbat, but it has to be in something which is known that it somehow or other helps or alleviates or heals in some way this problem, this disease, this fatal disease that this person has. And not okay, what is considered, okay, so we have two things now: a disease that is life-threatening and a healing that is relevant to alleviating this disease or healing the disease. If the disease is life-threatening, then you're allowed to defile the Shabbat, but what? Only in something which even might help save this person's life, even for a short amount of time. Okay, what is exactly considered to be a disease that is dangerous, life-threatening? Kol makashel halal, any internal wound. Hainu be'avorim apinim, mainly in the inner organs. Me'ashinayim b'lefanim, from the teeth and inward, and the teeth themselves included. Mechalim of a Shabbos. You can defile the Shabbat. It has to be that his teeth are sick, rotten, or one of the other limbs, machmas maka, because of a wound, or it has some sort of a blister or a hole. But if just a person just has a regular toothache and there's no possible danger to his life, it's not called a makah. And you cannot transgress on the Shabbat, even if it hurts him very much. It's not life-threatening. So life-threatening means that there is a inner limb which has been seriously damaged to the point that it could be fatal. But if a person, let's say his teeth hurt so much, until his whole body is sick, right? He can't do anything, can't function. Then it is permissible to uproot the Shabbos by means of a non-Jew. In other words, his tooth is not, he has a wound on his tooth, and it is definitely not life-threatening, but it's so very painful that he can't function at all on Shabbat, can't function. Right? He can't talk, he can't walk, he can't move, or he's bedridden. So it says, then you can do anything you want to, even something for Shabbat, you can even take him in the car, but by means of a non-Jew. Afilu malacha gamur. And if the person is not in such great pain, then it's permissible to do, by means of a non-Jew, anything which is forbidden from the rabbis. That's called a shvut. A shvut is a prohibition on Shabbat from the rabbis. It's called a shvut. Kamoshi is like we'll explain. Okay, so what do we have? If there is an inner limb from the teeth, including the teeth, inward, and there could be from this a possible loss of life, then a Jew can take him to a Jew can transgress the Shabbos for this person. If there is no danger to this person's life, but it's just such a tremendous pain that he's incapacitated, then a non-Jew can transgress the Shabbat. He's not transgressed, the non-Jew is not commanded, but a non-Jew can do a work which is forbidden on the Shabbat for a Jew. Take him in the car, give him a shot, whatever. A non-Jew. If the Jew is in pain, but it's not so great that it incapacitates him, it's just awful pain. Right? Headaches, he gets headaches once every hour. Splitting migraine headache. So it says, then a non-Jew, you cannot transgress the Shabbos, and a non-Jew cannot transgress the Shabbos. What in a Torah commandment, but you can transgress. Then a non-Jew can transgress something which is from the rabbis, a non-Jew. Like we're going to explain. We'll explain all these laws. Therefore, a person that has pain in his teeth and it hurts him so much until his whole body gets sick from it, that then it's permissible to even do something from the Torah by a non-Jew. Then you can tell a non-Jew, for instance, to extract the tooth, which is forbidden from the Torah. You're making blood. And even though that the Jew whose tooth is being pulled, he helps him a little bit, he opens up his mouth, etc. And if so, he's helping him to transgress from the Torah. Don't worry about it. There's nothing wrong. Because that help that he's doing is not really necessary. The non-Jew could pull out this tooth without the help of the Jew. If the Jew just sort of left his mouth loose, the non-Jew could easily open it up. So therefore, the Jew opens up his mouth. He aids the non-Jew to help him pull out this tooth, even though the tooth was not life-threatening, but it did incapacitate him, made his whole body hurt. Then the non-Jew can do a transgression from the Torah. What's a transgression from the Torah for a Jew? Al Yado, by means of him. V'haya nachri yochol, the non-Jew could have taken this tooth out on his own. And some people say that a malacha she'ena tzarich legufa is not forbidden except for divrei sofrim. So it's permissible to take it out by means of a non-Jew, even if he's not so sick. Like we're going to explain. Because we learned this before in a short way. A malacha she'ena tzarich legufa. The laws of Shabbat, it's very difficult to transgress from the Torah, a law on Shabbat, to get punished. And there's also some mitigating factors. And one of them is that if you do a work, you do something on Shabbat that you don't want the outcome of the work. You don't want the outcome. For instance, a person that puts out a candle on Shabbat. So what's the outcome of that when you put the outcome? Well, it makes a little wick it makes a little bit of charcoal, whatever is on the tip of the wick. Makes it easier to light after that. But also it makes the room dark. Darkness is not a creation. So you put out a light on Shabbat. Some people will say that's a malacha she'ena tzarich legufa. Putting out a light on Shabbat, right? You're not creating anything. Don't do it. It's forbidden to do. Those people who say that a malacha she'ena tzarich legufa is not forbidden, except in the words of the Sofrim, and then if this tooth does not give him so much pain that his whole body is incapacitated, then a non-Jew can pull it out. So here we have three laws of something which is life-threatening to a Jew, then any Jew can transgress the Shabbat to heal this person, stop him from dying. If the wound, an internal wound, we're talking about internal wounds, the internal wound is not life-threatening, but it incapacitates his whole body, then a non-Jew can transgress a law from the Torah. And if the wound, the internal wound, is not incapacitating his whole body, it just hurts him a lot, then a non-Jew can transgress a rabbinical law. Let's try one more. Can you stay on a little bit, Yochanan, or not? Answer. So what happened? I had the answer and ran away from it. All right, let me just finish this thing first. What the answer is. There it is, chat. No chat. Answer. All right. There we go. This is long. Okay. A maka shel halal, if a person has a wound that's an internal wound, you don't have to estimate, you don't have to have professional opinion if it's mortal or not. If it'll, even if it's an ordinary, right, as he knows that something's wrong with his stomach, he has ulcers or something like that, and it hurts him, even if there's no experts there that they know if this is a dangerous, what if the person himself feels really bad and it could be a fatal wound, then you have to mechalel the Shabbos. And even if the sick person doesn't say anything, you can do everything that you would do in the weekday. You can give him food or medicine that is good for a sick person, even though there's no danger at all if you don't keep these things away. Why? Because the person himself is in a situation where he might lose his life because of this. Because the sickness that he's got is dangerous. So therefore, you can do anything that's relevant, even vaguely, to healing this, even if it's a transgression of the Torah. But if you know this disease, and you know for sure that if you wait, it's not going to endanger his life, there it is forbidden to chalal Shabbos, even if it's an internal wound. And how much more so if the sick person or another expert sick person says you don't have to do it. Some people say that even in a place where you do need to transgress the Shabbat by means of a Jew, you shouldn't do it only if there's a worry that if you don't do it by a Jew, that maybe it won't come out so good. Maybe the non-Jew will drag his feet a little bit. But anytime that you can, some people say, this is one opinion, anytime that you can save a person's life by means of a non-Jew, even though that the person needs it, and in the weekday you would do it, don't do it on Shabbos except by means of a goy. Just like a sick person that hasn't got any danger. So in other words, some people say that we'll get to this also in law. If someone is sick and in danger, that a Jew should do it. Some people say that if it's possible to find a non-Jew, that he can do it, and that if a non-Jew does it, it won't endanger the person, then you should have a non-Jew. A non-Jew should do it. And that's what we should do in our countries over there in Russia, wherever, in Ukraine, White Russia, that they were machmer, even the thing where there really is a danger, not to do it by means of a Jew, as long as you can do it by means of a non-Jew without any delay or, waiting at all. Like we'll explain. If so, a thing which is a thing which if you withhold from the sick person, there's no danger at all. Therefore, for sure, you should do it by means of a non-Jew. Even if there is to worry that the non-Jew will be a little bit lazy. But if there is no non-Jew at all, then you can rely on the first opinion, and you should do by means of a Jew. Okay, we'll learn the next law that that's not exactly what we do. What do you say, Jonathan? I didn't see your answer. Are you still here, or do you have to go? You already gone? Okay. So we'll see you tomorrow then, 8:15. Good? Shalom. 8:15 in the morning, we're learning Chassidus. Beautiful mimer. The tzaddikim are called by the name of God.